get to my 14th game, my 15th game was going to be a bonus. And I'm playing good. I'm holding my own.
Yep.
I get dropped. And nobody could tell me why. This bloke calls me out. He's from St Kilda Football Club. Murray Ablett was his name. He said, mate, I'm here to ask you if you want to play in the senior game this year with St Kilda Football Club. I nearly fell over, right?
You know, who are your sort of childhood heroes?
Definitely my older brother, Stuart. Unfortunately, he passed away in a car accident in 1979, but he was the one that I used to love going to watch play.
Russell Jeffrey, mate, thanks very much for joining us on the Next Gen North podcast.
Thanks for having me, Stu.
So where are you based? Like, are you in Darwin these days, or where's the office?
Yeah, based in Darwin. Do work from home a little bit too at times because I do a bit of travelling.
Yep.
A lot closer. I live out in the rural, so anywhere south's a lot closer from the rural area than it is from Darwin. But
yep.
But predominantly, work in Darwin. We got an office here.
Yep. Are you born in Darwin?
Born and bred. Absolutely,
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So how's the place changed since you were a young fella?
Oh wow. Yeah. Look, I suppose a lot's changed. I went through Cyclone Tracy, so
yep.
I'm a Cyclone Tracy survivor, as they
wow.
call us.
Yep.
I was only a young fella at the time, but very vivid memories of the week leading into it, the night of, and the weeks after. It was certainly something different. But you know, Darwin was a pretty small place back then. It felt like it was really small compared to what it is now, obviously.
Yep.
A lot of the changes I've noticed over the years has been the growth of the suburbs, obviously. They were just sort of starting back then, in particular northern suburbs, and the various buildings that have gone up here in the city. It's really changed a hell of a lot since I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, we actually had Richard Creswick, an ABC reporter on, an old journalist. He's written a book about the 50th anniversary of Cyclone Tracy. Hearing some of his accounts was pretty harrowing stuff. And one of the things he actually mentioned was that because there was a cyclone, I think maybe a few weeks beforehand, which you'd probably remember, and it kind of fizzled out, I think. Is that your experience where sort of it didn't get it taken as seriously as it probably should have the second time around?
100%. I remember it was the last week of school, possibly, 2 weeks out from Christmas, maybe a bit longer.
Yep.
And I do remember we got sent home from school. Never actually went back to school after that because obviously the Christmas break come. But yeah, we knew that this cyclone was brewing. It obviously went past us, and then once we heard about Tracy coming our way, it was a lot of. I think there was a lot of people that just thought, it's just another one that's going to blow past us. But I'll admit, my mother did not think that at all. She was.
She knew.
She knew. She was on the job, and one of the things she said straight up was, "It's coming because there's no birds," and the birds had gone.
Right.
Day or two before that absolutely disappeared. So she had an inclination that it's coming, and it obviously did.
And where did you hole up during that? Were you at home, or did you find somewhere like some sort of shelter?
No, we're at home. A housing commission place in Valdecresne in Rabbit Creek, a brick home, thank goodness.
Right.
So we're pretty safe in there. We lost our roof, lost our ceiling, lost all the windows and all that. Or louvers, should I say? But nothing beats brick and mortar when it comes to those sorts of wins, I can tell you.
Yeah, and did the Territory community, or the Darwin community in particular, did they sort of pull together afterwards and help each other, or how did you find it?
Yeah, look, we were told straight up after it, within, it must have been the first few hours, that everyone had to go to what they called a cyclone shelter, but it was actually a gathering of people.
Okay.
And we went to Nycliffe High School.
Right.
So we had to stay in there. I remember sleeping in the science rooms in there. So no mattresses, no pillows, nothing like that. We're sleeping on the just on the bench tops at the time until we got the call up to be evacuated, which I'm not sure how long it took, but it seemed like a long time. Like it wasn't like a couple of days. It was maybe a week or two.
Is that right?
Yeah, before we got the call up, and my father had got family in Melbourne.
Yep.
So we were evacuated to Melbourne, the whole family, and there's 10 of us. There's a lot of kids, but the older ones obviously were okay.
Yep.
And stayed with our auntie Nancy and Uncle Bill for a period of time, and then they were really involved in the church side of things in Melbourne, and we're fortunate enough to get a house from that was actually a college, Catholic college that had a house, and this house was huge compared to what we'd ever seen, and so we moved into there for a little while and went to a couple of schools while we were there. Moved to Springvale as well. That was in Brighton Beach.
Yep.
But the people of Melbourne, wow. I can remember people coming around that own shops, knocking around our door and saying, "Do you need anything? Can we help you out? We've got a store, please come." So a few times we did. My dad was a pretty proud bloke. He didn't really want to, but we're in that position where we had nothing.
Was that generation, you reckon, where you just sort of want to do things on your own and, you know?
Yeah. And he was, he's a proud bloke. He got his kids, his wife. He didn't sort of reach out for help, but it was all consuming. They just kept coming. So, we were lucky enough to go to a couple of stores in Melbourne and deck ourselves out with clothes and obviously footwear as well.
Yep.
And then, just the way they got behind us while we was down there was just something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. We got a lot of thank, and it just didn't happen in Melbourne, obviously, but wherever, Darwinians were evacuated to, I think they sort of got the same treatment, which was humanly beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see, something good can come out of something so terrible. On a more lighter note, I'm a bit of a footy buff myself, and I know, how much of a trailblazer you've been for territory footy in particular. What are your earliest memories of playing footy in the territory? Did you play from a really young age? Was it always around you?
Yeah, look, it was big in my family. There was 3 sports that were very big in my family: Aussie rules, rugby league, and softball.
Okay.
My father was avid rugby league. He loved rugby league, and anybody that grows up in Darwin, that at some stage you're going to play rugby league because it's off season to Aussie rules, and that's actually what I loved as a kid growing up. Was Aussie rules finished and then rugby started, finished and Aussie rules started. So we had sports 12 months of the year, but I started at a very young age. Rubber Creek Primary School. I would have been about 7. I can remember my first training that I did, and believe it or not, it was drop kicks.
Yeah,
it was drop kicks, right? So
showing your age a bit there, Russ.
Yeah, but it wasn't there for long. Like it was just briefly before we went to a drop punt. But I can remember going home and I did this a hell of a lot once I really got hooked and fell in love with the game. But I'd just kick this ball up against the fence doing these drop kicks, and then it was almost the following season, because this was just schoolboys footy, obviously. Following season that they brought in the drop punts, and we adjusted to that pretty quickly.
So with the drop kick, I've sort of heard mixed stories, from my old man in particular, about like how far people could actually kick a droppy. You could give them a good roost, couldn't you?
I've seen some blokes roost them like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
Ridiculous, actually.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. And the old stab passes, as they call them, they still call that now, but a drop kick stab pass was lethal.
Yeah.
And it moved at a rate of knots, mate, that could knock the biggest chest in. So it was pretty spectacular. Very difficult. Very difficult.
Real art form, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. The drop, you had to get the drop perfect. You had to kick it, as it hit the ground. Very small room for error, but there were so many great players that could really execute it so very, very well.
How do you think a drop, that transformation from a drop kick game to a drop punt game, how did that sort of transform things? Did it become a more team oriented game, or instead of just sort of trying to get it as long as you could to the big fellas who were flying, how did it change the game in your mind?
I think it definitely quickened the game up to a degree, and it also tidied the game up in terms of skill wise.
Sure.
A lot less room for error, as I said, with a drop kick. There's a lot of room for error, and I think it was a lot easier to teach and get a hold of once you started learning it than probably a drop kick was. And of course, we play in the wet weather up here. Drop kicks would have been bloody hard.
Drop it in a puddle.
Yeah, drop all in the mud.
Yeah.
You can imagine the skill errors back then because of the conditions and the difficulty of trying to kick it. But I just think it quickened it up a bit.
Which probably suits the territory game because it is. I've heard it described by people like Nathan Buckley. It is quicker up here, and he he recommends for even southern footballers to come up and do at least one season in the Territory just because of how quick the game is.
It is quick, and it's quick because of two reasons. It's obviously the ball movement, but it's also the run and carry with the leg speed that so many of our players have had over the years and still got now. I think that catches a lot of people off guard.
Yep.
I know a lot of Southerners that come up here and thought they were quick, and then sort of realise, hang on, yeah, no, I'm not that quick.
Yeah. So sorry just to harp on the drop kick for a second. Did it spin backwards still? Like is that yeah. So it's still
technically the same,
right.
Exactly the same.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, it had to hit the ground first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so who was the junior clubs you started with back in those days, both rugby and AFL?
I start with the AFL. I started at school, obviously, same as rugby league. Started at school with Rabbit Creek Primary School. I actually played my first rugby league game for brothers.
Okay.
Back in the day, I think it was like under 8s or under 9s or something like that. And with Aussie rules, once I reached the age, I think it was 11, you're allowed to play. I played for the St Mary's Football Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long did that last for with Saints?
4 or 5 years, I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah, it would have been. I had an older brother, Stuart, playing there.
Yep.
Premiership player. Won a best on ground in a grand final, I think in 1972 as well.
Right.
Cheney medal, which
it was a Cheney back in those days.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm not sure if it was a Cheney back then, but certainly the equivalent of.
Sure.
So yeah, it was a natural progression for us to sort of follow him.
Yep. And was Saints a family club for you, or was it just a big brother?
It was a big brother.
Yep.
I had a couple of cousins that supported them, didn't actually play, but we sort of knew really that our family club was Wanderers because we had a lot of cousins playing there over a long period of time. So that's probably why we steered away and went over to Wanderers when they were struggling.
Yep.
And probably needed some support.
And how long did you stay at Wanderers before? Because did you get? I don't know how it worked in the mid '80s. Did they have a draft then to get taken to the VFL?
They had zones.
Right.
They had what was called zones. Darwin was no man's land, so there was nobody that actually had full access to Darwin at all, if they even wanted to. I don't even think they came up here at that time. I was very lucky. I was very lucky. I actually had my first knee operation at the age of 16, and I'd missed, and I just started playing senior footy with St Mary's at the time.
Yep.
And I missed a year and a half, I reckon,
Okay.
or a season and a half.
Yep.
Of footy as I had this operation, and on the other end of it, it was off season again up here with the NTFL season. So myself, my brother Joe, and a couple of mates, we were sort of thinking, well, let's go to Perth. Let's go to Perth. Let's go and have a game in Perth and see how we go. And there was a good cohort of us, about 8 or 9 of us. In the end, my brother Joe turned around and said, "No, let's go to Victoria. Let's go to Melbourne. Let's go to where the footy's at." I didn't care. I just wanted to play again. I was pretty desperate at that stage to get on a footy field. I couldn't wait, and I wasn't going to play rugby with the way the knee was. I'd sort of lost a bit of confidence with that. So we sort of split. The group split. Some went to Perth, and rest of us went to Geelong.
Yep.
And Peter Stannard actually set it up for us. Steno was ex Wanderers player,
Yep.
Premiership player, also an ex-coach. Oh, excuse me. So he set it up with this club called Geelong West, Blue West, who played in the local Geelong Football League down there.
Okay.
So we all drive down there, and first place we went to was Melbourne, caught up with our uncle and auntie, and a few cousins. And then we went down to Footscray's Oval, and we pulled up in the car park there. I remember it so well. And the bus pulled up, and Footscray had been away playing a night game or something like that. And Majo steps off the bus, and he's seen us, mate. You should have seen his face. It just lit up, right? And we lit up too. So we were lucky enough to catch up with him, and they sort of walked us through the club and gave us a look at what the oval was like and what the change rooms and all that. But then we went down to Geelong and
Yep.
started playing straight in the senior side there, which was a surprise to me because I hadn't played for so long. But and then there was a bloke by the name of Rod Bedell, who was playing for Geelong at the time, and he's the uncle of Shannon.
Yes.
Daniel.
We had a chat about Rod when Shannon came on. Yep.
Unbelievably good player, mate. Like a serious player.
Yep.
Just didn't dedicate himself enough, but he was at Geelong at the time, and we sort of ran into him in the street, and he knew Joe, my brother Joe.
Yep.
And he asked what we were doing there, and in the end, he had somebody from Geelong come down and have a look at us play.
Yep.
And myself and another bloke, Graham Russell, who was a champion player for the Wanderers Football Club at the time, beautiful left foot. Excuse me. So they invited us down to train with the under-19s. I didn't really think much of it, I thought, just an opportunity, we'll go down and have a bit of a kick. My focus was on playing as many games as I could so I can get ready to come back to Darwin and play in Darwin for Wanderers because I still hadn't played for Wanderers at that stage.
Right.
So we did that. They kept watching us, and then they invited us back. Graham decided not to go. I'm not sure why, but I sort of said, yeah, well, I'm going to go. I actually really enjoyed the training that we were doing at that time with the under-19s, and then I did that. I played on the weekend, and on the Sunday drove up and spent some time with my uncle and auntie in Melbourne and my cousins, just sort of having a break. And I got this phone call. I don't even know to this day how they tracked me down.
Right.
And Bill McMaster, the head recruiter at Geelong, was on the other end of the line and says, "Man, we've got to sign you. We've got to sign you before 12 o'clock tonight," what they call a Form 4 or something like that.
Okay.
I said, "Well, mate, I'm in Melbourne." He goes, "Well, can you meet me at the old Junction Oval in the car park? I've got to lodge it. I've got to lodge it before midnight." So ended up meeting him there, signed this form, which, put me on their list at the under-19s, and that's where it's all really started for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Geelong under-19s.
Yeah.
Did you ever play a senior game for the
the
Cats?
No, I didn't. I did. I actually did. I played a night game, practice game.
So that's a pre-season
Yeah,
type
it was
thing.
a bit of a night game. That it was at Waverley actually, and for some reason they put me in a half-forward flank when I was been playing back line, which is all right. But I sort of progressed from the under-19s. Then I got on the senior list the following year.
Okay.
Which was good. I was still playing under-19s at the time, but mostly in the reserves. For that second year, first year was only short under-19s and then the full pre-season, and then I went into it. And then year 3, I was playing pretty good footy. I'd actually won the year before most promising junior at Geelong, which was pretty cool. And I was pushing my case. I think I was emergency for 7 weeks in a row, one part there for the seniors, but I don't know. They just did not give me a crack.
Yep.
And then I did my knee again.
All right.
So I had another operation, and that was pretty heartbreaking because I was flying at the time, and the amount of work and the amount of just the amount I've learnt with the Geelong Football Club at that time was massive, mate.
Because it was a pretty bloody strong side back then, wasn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely.
I really wanted to ask, if you trained with the seniors.
Oh yeah.
So was that guys like Barry Stoneham, Gary Senior, Billy Brownless, those types. What was that like? That must have been amazing for a young kid from the Territory, playing with really greats of the game.
Look, Barry and Billy Brownless were my age, so they'd sort of only just come in as well.
Yeah, okay.
And I got on really well with them. We actually played a little bit under 19s or reserves together for a little while before they were elevated.
Because you would have sort of been training against those guys because they were key forward, or were you key back in those days?
Yeah, I was more half-back flank back then.
Yep.
And then, obviously, Gary Ablett Senior, he was a freak, mate. Serious freak. He, you hear the stories. He didn't train much.
Yeah,
and
can you confirm? Yeah,
no, he didn't.
Yep.
He didn't do a lot of the pre-season that we'd have to put ourselves through.
Right.
But geez, with ball in hand, what he could do with the football was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Was ridiculous. And, you know, a lot of people see the goals that he's kicked, the marks that he's taken, but I tell you what, if he played up the ground and you were on the end of one of his kicks, you'd be pretty happy about it, mate, because he was brilliant.
Just lace out.
I remember he and I got on really well with him. Gary, when he married his first wife, who's got kids too, he invited 3 Geelong players to his wedding, and I was one of them, which was pretty cool. Yeah. And he'd approached me after this gym session we were doing, and I was on the boxing bag, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to do a bit of extra training?" I said, "Oh yeah, what sort?" And he said, "Oh, boxing." I said, "Yeah, no, let's do that." I'd sort of grew up doing boxing at the old Police Boys Club here in Darwin back in the day, and really enjoyed it. And the fitness level of it is different.
Right.
Gives you a little bit more of a string to your bow, if you like, with that sort of training. It's just different to normal running and marking and kicking and all that. So I took the opportunity, and he had a mate that had a gym in his house, and he's also had a full size boxing ring. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're doing this training. It was just me and him. And then he turned and said, "What do you reckon? We'll jump in the ring?" I said, "Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, let's go." I was feeling pretty confident.
Yeah.
Sort of got in the ring, and I'm really happy nobody was there, to be honest with you, because I couldn't hit him.
Really?
I could not touch him, mate. And he was picking me off left, right, and centre, and I'm going, "Man, what's going on here? Like, what is this guy? He's superhuman." Like, he was that quick with his hands and so evasive. I was hitting the air.
Yeah.
And I said to him after, I said, "Have you ever done this for real?" He goes, "No." I said, "Man, not saying I'm any good, but man, I couldn't touch you. I've never been in a ring and not been able to touch somebody."
Yeah.
Like,
just gifted, eh?
Oh, unbelievable, mate. He could have been anything if he took up boxing as well.
Yeah. Because I heard he was from sort of lumberjacks, or guys from the woods, essentially, where he was from.
Yeah, I think he's what's the place he was from? Not Barnsdale. It was
I'd know it if I heard it.
Yeah, I just can't remember. But yeah, they grew up tough, those boys.
Yep.
And there was a few of the Ablett boys. I played with his brother Jeff at St Kilda.
Yep.
He's a hell of a nice bloke. So yeah, they were tough boys, mate. And they just had natural bills,
right?
Like seriously natural bills with the roll shoulders that we sort of relate that to young Gary now.
Yep.
But those roll shoulders tell me that he could handle himself, mate, because he could.
Because he wasn't the biggest bloke, was he, Gary Senior? Like compare him say to a Tony Lockett or the other sort of key forwards of that era. It didn't seem like he was the biggest bloke, but he was just so nuggety. He could jump. He was fast. He was skillful. He sort of had the full package, except really for
the height.
For the height.
Yeah, look, he's probably my height, 6'2".
Okay, so he was
good height.
Yeah, he was.
And back then it was probably quite tall.
Yeah, right.
But compared to the bloke you just mentioned, I mean, Plugger was 6'4" and built like a brick outhouse. But what he had was real strong core strength. Like his legs were massive, man, like massive, and very hard to tackle because of that strength and power that he had in his legs. And, and of course he could sidestep, he could run, he could do everything. He's the greatest, I think, of all time.
Wow. Well, I heard, the only things that he really taught his boys was kick both legs and don't fall over. And I think it's a pretty simple recipe, isn't it, for playing at the top level?
No, definitely, and they certainly could do that.
Yeah, amazing family. So then did you go straight to St Kilda from there, or was there a bit of time in between? What sort of happened after your time at the Cats?
So after the second knee operation, Geelong called me in for a meeting, and it was at the end of the season. The season had just been completed.
Yeah.
And they produced this letter from the surgeon, which basically said, unless this bloke's, well, not basically, it did say, it said, unless this bloke's Robert Flower, you probably need to move him on.
Right.
His knee's shot, which broke my heart because I was very close that year to cracking it. And I was feeling more and more at home too in Geelong, which was not easy to do.
Yep.
And it was like the rug had pulled out from underneath me, and I actually got really emotional, and so did they. They were so good.
Yeah. Is that sorry to interrupt, but like, is that part of the reason why Geelong to this day is still a destination club? Is that because they look after their people?
100%, mate.
Yeah.
100%. They're a good club. They're a great club, and yeah, this letter was pretty blunt from the surgeon.
Yeah.
They were happy to sort of say, well, you know, let's just see how this goes. Let's pan out. You know, let's do the rehab. And I was that hurt and that emotional that all I wanted to do was go home. I said, no, that's it. I'm going home. I'm going home. Second knee operation in 3 years. You know, I can't do this. I can't do it. Thought the dream was over. Finally came back home after 3 years, I think, 4 years, whatever it was. Played a season with Wanderers, which was my first time that I'd got to pull on the blue and gold. Brother Joe was playing there as well, so that was a really nice time. Although we didn't play finals, we certainly we had a bit of a crack that year.
Yep.
And then I sorry.
Ethan, can you just grab a bottle of water if you don't mind?
Sorry.
Thanks.
Then I so I went home and played the footy and sort of getting towards the end of the season, back half of the season. I'm wondering what I'm going to do. You know, what can I do? Thank you. And get a phone call from Rod Waddell. What are you doing? I said, just finishing up footy and not really sure. He said, do you want to come down here? And I'm coaching Geelong Football Club and you can come down and we'll look after you and all the rest of it. And then they had all their hierarchy fly up. It was in the Murray League at the time.
Yep.
Sort of sat down with me and a few other boys and we sort of said, oh, yeah, let's go give it a crack. So went down there in 87, I think it was.
Okay.
87. Started playing down there. Rod was coaching. I was unofficial assistant coach at the age of 21 or 20 or whatever it was. No, it would have been 21. Ended up winning a premiership there that year. But I was working in a wool shed as a rouseabout just outside of town. And once again, I don't know how they found me, but this guy walks in asking for me. I didn't hear it. I was too busy picking up stuff like wool. And going, yeah, he's here. And I looked over and said, oh, do you mind if I talk to you? And I said, yeah, mate. And I walked out. And before that, I'd been down and trained with Richmond.
Yep.
When Morris was there.
That's my club, yeah. Love the Tigers.
Tony Jewell was the coach, I reckon, at that time.
Famous names.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, I trained with them and we'd sort of put into place that I'd come down at some stage and play in the reserves, get on the books and go back the following year and I'd go to Richmond. And I thought, oh, you beauty.
Wow.
And then this bloke calls me out. He's from St Kilda Football Club. Murray Ablett was his name, no relation to the other Ablett family. Mm-hmm. And he said, mate, I'm from St Kilda and, you know, we want you to come down, we want you to play a game. We know that, you know, you got to come back here. We're happy with that, but, you know, we'd really love for you to play. And I said, look, I've already agreed to play with Richmond. And he said, well, did you sign anything? I said, no, I haven't signed anything. He goes, okay. He said, well, what's the go there? What are they going to do? And I said, I can't remember the date. I'm going to play on this date, blah, 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 in the reserves. He goes, no, we want to play in the seniors. I'm going, what? He said, no, I'm here to ask you if you want to play in the senior game this year with St Kilda Football Club. And I nearly fell over, right? Nearly fell over. And I'm going, you sure about this, mate? Like, this don't sound like the norm. He goes, it's not the norm, but we're that keen to get you that we want to do this.
So you must have been playing some good footy.
Yeah, I was playing good footy at that time. Yep. Knee was good. Knee was really good at that time. Done a proper rehab. Obviously the season in Darwin as well, which gave me a lot of confidence. And he said, and we're going to pay you $1,000. I said, okay, where's the payment? Let's sign this, man. Let's get this happening.
Absolutely.
And then he sort of said, he pulls out the drawer and he goes, when do you think, you know, you can be available? And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to have to do a little bit more extra work here. This ain't country footy. So I give myself 4 weeks.
Get your fitness up and that sort of.
Yeah, just to give myself, you know, extra, I don't know, 8 to 10 training sessions away from what I was normally doing. And I didn't know anybody at St Kilda. I knew the names, but I didn't know anybody personally. And we're looking at it, and I said, this game here against Geelong, at Geelong. Naturally, I knew the Geelong boys, I knew the Geelong ground.
Yeah.
So I thought, if that could happen, he goes, okay, let's lock it in. So I go down 3 or 4 weeks later, train on a Thursday night. Darryl Baldock was the coach then, the great Darryl Baldock, Doc. He actually got me in the room and before training, and he goes, well, why do you want to play at St Kilda? I didn't tell him they offered me $1,000. But they were my club. I actually barracked for them.
Oh, right.
Back when we got evacuated to Melbourne, where we were living in Brighton was close to Moorabbin, and my uncle had connections to St Kilda, so my first game of footy,
Wow,
VFL back then, was at Moorabbin, St Kilda v Hawthorn, and I seen a bloke by the name of Cowboy Neil running around. I thought, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
So I grabbed hold of them. So I'd actually barrack for them.
So you knew a bit of the history and could sort of explain that. Yeah.
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 And as soon as I said that, smile just grew on his face. He goes, no worries. He goes, where do you want to play? I said, oh, look, I'm a halfback flanker, mate. You know, that's where I'm most comfortable. And he said, is there anyone particular you want to play on? I said, yeah, there is, Michael Turner. Mickey Turner was the captain of Geelong, and who I got on really well with. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to challenge him, not so much him challenge me.
Yeah.
That's all right. So I get the pick, the week I played, who I played, the ground I played, and who I played on. Now that don't happen, right?
Yeah,
that
that's
just
not
doesn't
bad,
happen.
is it?
Yeah. So it was really cool.
Yeah. How'd you go? Did you get a kick?
Yeah.
Went all right?
Yeah, got in the best players actually.
Oh wow.
And straight after the game, I jumped in the car and drove back to Drillery and finished the year off there.
Wow.
That's how it all sort of happened.
And so you spent a couple of years at Saints, is that right? In the end?
I was there in '88.
Yep.
So we, I was there in '88. Was doing pre-season. Then the bicentennial carnival came on in Adelaide, so they allowed me to come up to Darwin just to train with the boys before we all travelled to Adelaide.
Yep. I think my old man was actually a selector in that.
He certainly was, 100%. Yep, he was. And obviously we had great success there, and then from there straight from Adelaide to Melbourne to finish off the pre-season.
Yeah.
Which was good. But I did in '88 I'd played I think 14 games, 14 senior games. I had a couple of injuries, nothing too major.
Yep.
Played 14 games out of a possible 20 or whatever it was then. So that was good, but it was. I won't go into detail, but something happened during a game. Something was said during a game from an official at St Kilda that was not good.
Okay.
And it was said to me.
Right.
And it wasn't good. And I remember going home after that game, saying to my now wife, Kim, pack up, let's go. She goes, what do you mean? No, let's go. I'm staying. Which was really bizarre, right? Mm-hmm. And she going, why?
For a club that you loved as a kid.
Yeah. I said, no, we'll go to Drillery. Let's just get out of here. Mm-hmm. So we did that, packed up, went, didn't tell them. They tracked me down. I was actually staying at the house of the then president, Ray Anthony, at Drillery.
Yep.
And phone rings. Oh, they're on the phone for you. Oh, how the hell did they find me? So what they did, Ian Drake was the main man then. Obviously Doc and Murray Ablett, and there was one other. Excuse me. They flew down from flew from Melbourne to Finley, and then caught a taxi from Finley to Drillery, and we caught up with them at the pub, the old Colony Inn. No, it wasn't the Colony Inn. It was the Riv. Yep. The Riv Arena, and we sat in this meeting room and sort of went over what happened, why, and I explained it to them, and they were really shocked. They were really shocked. And but basically said to me, look, that's not us. That's not the St Kilda Football Club. That we know. We'd love to have you back. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, look, all right, okay, I'll come back. So we're still quite a few games to go. I came back, played on the Saturday against Carlton on Middle Hannah and did a really good job on him. And
they were a gun team too, weren't they?
They were a gun team, mate. They were a gun team, definitely.
Stacked.
We didn't win, but I'd had a really good game.
Yep.
And it was funny because in your contracts there were little incentives in your contracts.
Yep. So
I get to my 14th game, my 15th game was going to be a bonus. And I'm playing good. I'm holding my own.
Yep.
I get dropped. Thought,
that's funny.
hang on. And nobody could tell me why. Nobody could tell me why.
That's interesting.
So I naturally assumed it's the money. Like they're trying to save money. And this is what they did back in the day, obviously. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll get to the end of the year and I'm gone. I'm gone. That's it. Shop shut. And that was 88, yeah.
Yeah.
And then 89, I ended up coming back and just playing here in Darwin.
Yep.
I said, no, I'm not going back there. I'm done. I was getting a lot of inquiries from other teams.
Yep.
Eagles was really interested in me. Mick Malthouse was interested. Kevin Sheedy was interested. So I was getting all these little messages coming to and fro. I said, nah, that's it, mate. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going back. You know, I've played my games. I'm happy.
Yep.
I'll just set up my life back here in Darwin. And then 1990 come around, and that's when St Kilda came up and played us in the representative game.
Yep.
And by that time, Kenny Sheldon was coach, Bomber. And I remember the conversation with him after the game at the casino. And I think that was their first game that we lost. We'd won 9 in a row, and they beat us. Stewie Lowe beat us, actually. We couldn't get past Stewie Lowe.
Buckets.
Oh, yeah, they just sat him in the back line, and we just couldn't get past him.
Yeah.
Which was a real bummer. So, yeah, we was sort of having a bit of a conversation over the bar, and Bomber, who I'd played with previously when he came across from St Kilda, said, mate, we'd love to have you back. We think there's room for you in this side, you know. And I thought, okay. So I'm not sure how they did it back then. Like there was some sort of a draft.
Yep.
But I get the phone call to say, yep, you're going to St Kilda. So I basically went back down there, 90 and 91, I think.
Okay.
Then I got another knee injury in 91, which really had me doubting that I could keep up with the training regimen, let alone the standard of the game.
Because it is mentally tough, isn't it, when you get a knee injury? Like I've had a full knee reco myself.
Yeah.
Later in my 20s, and I was one and done. I said I can't do that again. You know, missing work and stuff. It'd be a bit different for you. You know, you've got a footy career on the line. But how hard was that, sort of mentally getting up?
It was hard, even though I'd had 2 previous. And my injury was very unique in that it was, now they've got a name for it. It's called degenerative knee.
Okay.
They didn't even have a name for it
Right.
back then. And I had my first operation was to remove quite a large bone that had come off from my knee and was getting lodged, and you know my knee couldn't straighten. Yeah, it was a lot of pain, and it took a long time for the doctors to find out what the hell was going on. It was X-rays and all sorts of stuff. Just couldn't pick it up until they finally did. So a lot of it was going in and just cleaning this, what they call the spurs and burrs that grow off the bone. But that's all they could do. There was nothing else that they could do except relieve the pain for a period of time before they start growing again, and you'd have to go back in.
Because that's what degenerative is, isn't it? It's like it's just not going to get better.
Just not going to get better.
But I think they try to sort of make it not get any worse. But yeah, so that must have been tough to. to deal with.
Yeah, it was. And I ended up in 91. I actually spoke to Bomber and said, "Mate, I think I'm done. Like I'm not feeling I can keep up anymore. We've had all this alternative training that they were doing with me, and a lot of water running, and trying to keep off the knee. And
are you away from the boys during that as well? So that's hard, isn't it?
Always away from the boys.
Yeah.
And it was depressing, you know. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And anyway, a lot of doubts come back and really haunt you. 1990, here I am. I played every game in 1990, represented Victoria.
Yeah, I've got to ask you about that.
So it was sort of on a bit of a high, but geez, that high became very low very quickly.
Yeah.
I said, look, I'm done. I think I'll just retire, mate. I'll go back home. I still want to play footy. I just want to enjoy my footy. I want to get as much out of the game as I possibly can as a player.
Yeah.
I can manage myself. I know my body. And he said, yeah, look, Russ, we understand that. So basically that's what I did. But again, started getting a lot of inquiries. And this time it was from Carlton and also Brisbane Bears at the time.
Yep. Just before we get to the Bears, if you don't mind, you mentioned something very interesting about the incentives in footy. How are they structured? Is it like statistics, or is it just beating your man? What does that look like?
Games played.
Games played,
so
okay.
That will trigger an incentive, so 5, 10, 15, 20, basically.
And does that change the way you approach the game at all? Because then you perhaps might not want to focus on the season per se. You might, I just got to get to 15 games. Did it change your approach in any way?
No, it didn't. I actually didn't think about that. And this was a big problem of mine.
Yeah.
Someone put a contract in front of me. I didn't care what was on. I just signed it. I just wanted to play footy, right?
Sure.
I did not read it. I did not understand it. I didn't even pretend to understand it.
But you wouldn't have had a manager or anything in those days, would you?
No,
like the guys do these days. Everyone's got a manager and someone looking over the paperwork.
Which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It can be a bit daunting if you're going in on your own and you're sorting a contract out that I personally I didn't understand anyway. I was just happy to play.
Yep.
So no, it didn't have any sort of bearing on what I did. But what I did do was excuse me, I broke the season into like quarters.
Okay.
Like first 5 games I've got to try to get in and play the first 5 weeks, set myself up for the next 5, and so I sort of broke it up like that.
Yep.
For my own probably mental being more than anything else, but that sort of gave me nice structure in terms of what my aims and goals were. I didn't try to think too far, and I just sort of worked in that 4 or 5 week period, type of thing right throughout the season, which works for me.
Yep.
Until I get injured, but yeah.
So the Big V, explain to us how a bloke from the Territory, that played bicentennial rep side for the Territory, how does that then turn into a representative jumper for the famous Big V Victorian?
It was interesting because at the time I was playing ruck. I was ruck roving off a half-back flank with a bloke called Tim Pekin, who was just one of the most fittest blokes I've ever come across in my life, and it was something very different back then to be doing that. And I found myself getting a lot of the ball, which obviously got me noticed, and I was invited to train with the Big V as part of a squad. Once again, I didn't think beyond that.
Yeah.
I didn't think, I'm going to play, or if I don't play. That just sort of didn't really come into my mind. I was very appreciative of firstly getting a call up and then training with these absolute champions of the game.
Those trainings must have been high standard.
Oh, they were sensational,
yeah.
Mate. And a lot of good banter too. Like there was as serious as it was, we had a good laugh too. Like they were giving it to each other. And when you got a bloke by the name of Dale Waitman, the Flea, as your captain, he really encouraged that sort of stuff.
Right.
So, and then there was a bit of an argument going on between the Vics, because we played New South Wales. New South Wales, because they knew that I played in Jerilderie.
Right.
And they say, no, he should be coming with us. And they go, no, he's coming with us. We picked him in the squad, blah, blah, blah. So there was a fair bit going on, and this was being played out in the newspapers as well. And I'm freaking out, you know. I'm going, well, I don't care. Just give me a game, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And what had happened, how it happened, was after Cyclone Tracy, I played club footy down in Melbourne for a very long name team, Springvale South Junior something.
Right.
And because I played club footy in Victoria first, then they sort of went back and said, well, hang on, we got his name here playing here. So, yeah, he might have played seniors with Jerilderie, but he played first club footy here. So that's how it happened.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to still play well enough. I think it was like a 3-week period where they picked the squad to when they picked the team. And I remember training, it was at the G, and they said, right, listen to the radios at this time tonight, we're going to announce the team, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right, so I go home. My wife's there, Kim, we had two kids by then, Jonathan and Julian, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I said, oh, we better turn this radio on. I think they're going to announce the team, so it'd be interesting to see who gets in. And of course, they named me, and Kim's like looking at me and he's going, "Did you expect that?" And I said, "No, I didn't, not at all." So first, people I ring up is mum and dad, and I tell them, you know, and they're obviously over the moon. So yeah, that's how it sort of all happened. We played in Sydney.
Yeah.
Got beaten actually by New South Wales, who had, I think, every Danaher playing at that stage.
Rightio.
John Longmire played. He kicked 7 goals in atrocious conditions that night against some of the best fullbacks in the country.
Yeah.
And he was only young, man, and he was the difference. We didn't lose by a lot, but it was really heavy rain, and I was actually used to it. It was a bit like Darwin weather, to be honest with you, so I didn't mind it. But you could see a lot of people struggling. So, and I remember Danny, the great Danny Frawley, who was my captain at St Kilda at the time. He played as well, and we were rooming together.
Yep.
And I remember him walking in and just flopping on his bed and going, "Man, isn't that the worst feeling you've ever had?" I said, "It's not actually. Worst feeling I had when you guys come up and beat us." And he just looked at me like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, he didn't like that comment. But
well, he was sort of a hard on his sleeve sort of character, wasn't he? And I guess being a Victorian, he would have felt it a bit more than
and not that I didn't feel it, because I'm a competitor, man. I wanted to win.
Yep.
But the rules changed after that. The rules changed. There was myself and Graham Wright, who also played in that particular game from Tasmania.
Right.
So we actually were the rule changes. They ended up saying, no, you have to be born in that state to be considered for a Victorian representative game.
Yep.
And it's probably what hurt the likes of Nathan Buckley, because he obviously could have played for South Australia. He played there.
Yep.
But I think he was born in Darwin, so he couldn't.
Because he ended up playing for the Allies.
Yeah,
a bit.
He definitely did. But so yeah, that changed all the rules from then on. So I knew from that day on, I was definitely going to be the only Territorian to play for Victoria. But 2 years before that, Madge was flying. Madge was in the squad. Same situation. I can remember catching up with him at his place with his wife Linda, and he's bringing all these goodies in. He's going, "Here, look, I've got these shorts here, the big V shorts," and he's sort of giving me a big V shorts, training Guernsey, and I'm feeling like, wow, this is cool. He didn't get picked only because he probably hates me saying this, but it's true. He broke out in this. He had a reaction or something, and he broke out in this rash. It was quite an itchy sort of a rash, and he had it all over him. So they couldn't play him.
Right.
But the fact is, he was within a rash of playing, being the first.
You beat him to the punch, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to get Madjo on the podcast. So if Madjo's listening, we'll have you on any time. But I also heard a funny story, or not a funny story. It's a bit sad actually, about your Big V jumper.
Yeah.
And what happened to it?
We on our break, we'd often come home for a couple of weeks up to Darwin to see family and all that. And we're actually staying at my wife's sister's place, and I don't even know why I brought it up. I can't remember why I brought it up. I wouldn't normally bring that thought. Anyway, I didn't wear it, didn't use it, but I decided it probably needs a wash, you know. It's been sitting in the cupboard for a while.
Yep.
So, yeah, washed it. I can tell you now, it was number 10 is what I wore. Washed it, put it on the clothesline, never seen it again. Never seen it.
So if anyone's out there that knows the whereabouts of Russell's Big V, that's a piece of history. And, you know, you'd have that in the AFL&T museum, wouldn't you? Because, like...
Well, possibly.
Yeah, if you wanted it. Because I think it is literally a piece of history. Like you said, you're the only territory-born player to play for the Big V, so...
Yeah, I don't know who took it, mate. I got no idea. I don't even know whoever took it if they actually knew what they were taking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe they do now if they listen to this.
Watch this, yeah. All right. So after that, you were getting to the Brisbane part of things.
Sort of thought at the end of 91 my days are done.
Yep.
So I went home, come home and basically retired. From the AFL, and then once again Carlton were calling, Brisbane were calling, had meetings with them. They actually came up to Darwin and met with me. Brisbane flew me down, had a look at the Carrara Hotel, the Carrara ground out there, which is still there today.
Yeah, okay.
And wasn't impressed at all. It was, wow, I don't even know how to describe it. It was... Well, the sheds were basically demountables, training rooms demountables, offices demountables. Everything looked like it'd just be picked up with a forklift and taken away, including the grandstands. The only solid thing there were the lights.
There was probably territory footy clubs with better facilities at those times, I'd say.
Oh, Gardens Oval for a start.
Yeah,
much better. So didn't impress me, and I at the time St Kilda they said to me, they said, look, these are the two clubs chasing you. They wanted David Glasgow from from Carlton, to go to St Kilda to be under the feet of Big Plugger. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was going that way, and I thought, oh yeah, no, that would be cool. And I knew that their medical staff knew all about me. Mm-hmm. They said, no, we got a plan. We'll be able to get you through this, get you through year after year after year after year. So I was really confident that they knew what was going on with my body, in particular my knee.
Was that John Northey at the helm then?
Oh.
Do you remember?
No, it wasn't John Northey.
Okay.
Jeez, you know what? I can't remember who it was. Yeah, not sure. I think they won a grand final that year, but 92.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think they won. Anyway, St Kilda said, where do you want to go? And I said, I think I'll go Carlton. You know, good established club. I was never a big fan of Melbourne, especially the weather, but a big club. You know, opportunities there. They could see me playing 100+ games on half-back flank, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So that was my decision, and then it's taken out of your hands, and it was a draft back then.
Okay.
So the draft's just starting to come in.
Sure.
And I don't know what Brisbane came back to St Kilda with, what sort of offer, but whatever it was better than what Carlton were offering in the end.
Okay.
And they just did the deal with Brisbane, and so it caught me off guard, well and truly off guard.
Because did you have in those days? Did players, I guess, have much power about where they were going? Because I'm sure these days they've got a bit more power, don't they, with the Players Association, and there's a lot, a lot of developments in player power about where they can go. And
I thought I had the power because they asked me where, and I told them where, but in the end, no. No power, because the deals is where the power is, right?
Right.
How they perceive that deal and the benefits they're going to get from that deal.
Yep.
Definitely out
of your hands.
Outpointed.
Yep.
Anything that I wanted to do.
Yep.
And I really didn't want to go to Brisbane. I wasn't. Robert Walsh was there, the coach. He was one that, in my mind, I thought, geez, have somebody established coach like that, which I hadn't had.
Because he won a flag at Carlton, hadn't he?
He won a flag
recently. Yeah.
Very, very good coach.
Yep.
Hard, extremely hard.
Right.
But fair.
Okay.
And I was sort of thought, oh well, because I hummed it hard there for a while. I wasn't going to go, and then I did have a conversation with him on the phone. I thought, oh, bugger it, I'll go down and give it a crack, and basically jumped in the car with the family and drove to the Gold Coast and got set up in a house and all that sort of stuff, and started playing. I was a bit behind with my fitness because I'd been injured late in the NTFL season. I think I might have stretched my medial. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it blown up, so I couldn't do anything for about four weeks there.
Yep.
And I told him that. And I was, no, you're right, come down, we'll sort you out. So I ended up playing, I don't know, 3 or 4 reserves games. And at that time, there was a lot of Darwin boys down there.
Yeah, okay.
A lot, man. You know, Majo was obviously there.
Yep.
You had...
was Gilbert McAdam there yet?
Not
was
yet.
He at the Saints still?
He was at the Saints still, up to that point.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think who else. Bradley Copeland was there. Matty Matt was there. Jason Jones was there.
Yep.
There's a whole heap. They just sort of gravitated to Darwin.
Yep.
And sort of used it as a recruiting ground and
okay.
brought all these boys down. So it was a big contingent of Territorians.
Yeah, right.
And
did that make that sort of transition a bit smoother for you?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot of familiarity from it, with it, you know. And obviously the lure of Majo too. Like, I love the bloke. He looked after me when I was at Geelong like you wouldn't believe. I don't believe that without his support and his wife's support, Linda, that I would have lasted too long in Geelong. They were just really massive in the way they supported me and encouraged me.
And him being at another club too is interesting, you know, but he still showed that, you know.
Always. And you know, he's never stopped doing that, Madge. That's ingrained in him.
Yep.
But yeah, he I got a lot to thank that bloke, especially those early years. And we spoke footy a lot, man, a lot. And he, you know, he'd experienced so much at a young age. I think he went down there when he was 15, man, like very young. And he just had all this experience before I even got there that I could lean into. So to have somebody like him and Linda, you know, because she's cooking Darwin food, man, you know. All the food that we grew up with, she's cooking it, so it was really homely, a very comfortable place for me to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's continued to do that right throughout, not just his footy career, but post-footy career and his coaching and that as well. He's just an unbelievably great mentor.
Yeah. So what was the standard of the league like then? Was it, how tough was it, you know, in terms of physicality, fitness? Because, you know, watching a lot of old footage from those days, it seemed like some of the games could be a bit of a blood sport still. You know, like they've obviously, they're trying to protect the head much more, tidy the game up a bit for the, you know, the family viewer. What was your experience in those days? Was it pretty rugged?
I think the first time, and I'll probably go back to Geelong days. My first pre-season that I did, and it was under 19 pre-season, but they emulated what the seniors were doing, and we had a coach by the name of Ian Nankervis, one of the most greatest people I've ever met in my life. Very, very influential over blokes like myself.
Okay.
And I'd never done anything like that, man. Like, that blew me away, right? Like, the amount of running and the commitment. We're talking 4 days a week, sometimes 5.
Full-time job.
Full-time job, basically. That opened my eyes up, just that pre-season. But towards the end of the pre-season, you're playing intra-club games, right, against each other. And I'd never experienced this before. They were the hardest games of football I ever played, mate.
Right.
Because people are after your spot, you're after their spot. And it took me a while to get a grab. Man, what are you doing? Like
teammates.
Yeah, well, you for real?
Yeah.
But once you learn that that's the way it is.
Yep.
And the quicker you adjust to that, the better off you are. But I was shocked at first, mate. I was stunned.
Mm-hmm.
They were hard games, really, really tough games. And I remember Nanker's coming up to me after one game and he goes, mate, you could have got him, and him, but you pulled out. Why? And I said, well, they're my teammates. He goes, no, mate. They were in different colour today. You might train together, you might be in the same squad, but they were in different colour.
Yeah.
You've got to do what you should normally do. And that sort of set my path up in terms of, okay, this is how I've got to approach these practice matches and get them underway. So, and look, the standard was quick. Like people, even my boys today, they'll pick up an old DVD or an old game on Fox, whatever, where I'm playing, and they're going, man, this is fast. Like, this is really fast. Yeah, it was fast. Absolutely, it was fast. And the grounds were shit back then. And nothing like they are now. They're magnificent now.
Yeah, like pool tables, aren't they? Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but yeah, we never had a pool table. Maybe the early part of the season, but certainly once the winter came, you had no hope, especially in Geelong.
It was a fast, but it was a more direct game, wasn't it?
Definitely direct.
Yep.
Definitely direct. They key position was where it was at.
Yep.
You had to really feed through them. Obviously, back then, if you kick sideways or backwards, you'd be absolutely grilled. What are you doing?
Yeah. Get dragged.
But there was still that run and carry part of it where, run and receive and away you go. They loved that part of the game.
Yeah.
But it was really based around, get it to the big boys, get it to centre forward, get it to the full forward. And that was really what was based around, and that and the fact that it was very combative in the tight situations.
Yep.
And it was very accountable. You had to be accountable for your opposition player. Like, you're playing a half-back flank, mate. You're on that half-forward flanker. That's it.
Yeah.
Your first job is to beat them. And when you get the opportunity to run off and hurt them, then you do that.
Yep.
But your first job was to beat them, shut them out. So
man to man instead of these sort of team defences they play now, isn't it?
Yeah. Lot of guarding of grass nowadays.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we've had guys like Shannon, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, that have said that they looked up to you, when they were coming through, guys like Majo as well. But who are the guys that, in your early days, who did you look up to around, the local leagues, and, who are your sort of childhood heroes?
Definitely my older brother, Stuart. Unfortunately, he passed away in a car accident in 1979, but he was the one that I used to love going to watch play, whether it be rugby league or Aussie rules. He was a big man. Mm-hmm. My height, played in the ruck for Saints a fair bit, but he's a very, very big, powerful man. So he was definitely one that we all looked up to in our family. And when we lost him, it was I was only 13 at the time, but what it did for me is it really narrowed my focus, because I wanted to keep his legacy alive, if you like.
Yep.
So I was really determined that his legacy wouldn't die with him. And then my other brother Joe, who had a big break from footy, playing juniors, sort of came back in and was starting to make his way through the reserves and into the senior side at Wanderers. He was relentless, Joe, with what he did and how he prepared, and his training methods were a bit different to most.
Okay.
A lot of it was around boxing.
Yep.
So he was very inspirational, but he could be hard too. If he didn't think you were doing the right thing, he'd be onto you, man.
Right.
Bang. And then when we didn't get a lot of footy up here, we'd get one game a week, I think, main game, and it was normally Carlton or Collingwood or someone like that. It was quite annoying back in the day.
Same teams sort of thing. Yeah,
same teams. Right. But then Richmond started to come good.
Okay.
And of course you see Morris Rioli and it's like, wow, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is cool. To see one of your own, if you like, running around and not just performing, absolutely dominating.
Yeah.
He was certainly someone that I looked up to, and Madge is, he's only a year or two older than me, but we came up through the grades, and I can remember him playing a game of senior footy with Nycliffe at Gardens Oval one day, and he looked just so cool, so composed, so smooth. left foot, right foot, dodge left, dodge right. Just had all this.
And he was tough too, wasn't he?
Very tough,
Yeah.
but just a beautiful footballer to watch. Smooth, smooth, smooth.
Yep.
And everybody looked up to him. Everybody. And he had a maturity about him at a young age too that set him apart from anybody his age.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were probably the three for me.
Yeah.
When I really think. There's plenty more along the way, but in terms of that early thought or that early influence, yeah, it was definitely them three.
Yeah. And in terms of who were the best players that you played either with or against, because you were in some pretty amazing teams with some absolute legends of the game, Gary Senior and Tony Lockett and Danny Frawley, guys like that we talked about. Who are the guys, because Shannon, I think, when I asked him that question, it probably was, he didn't name probably the players I was expecting. They weren't sort of the all-time greats. They were very good players in their own right, and they just maybe played their roles a bit, they played their roles for the team, and it was very hard to play on them.
Yeah.
How do you see it, like looking back? Who were the best that you played with or against?
I think with, and if I look at just the AFL, I love Nicky Wimmer.
Yep.
Nicky Wimmer was someone that was ridiculously special. I've seen him do things on a football field, man, that just freak you out. And further to that, his training standards were very, very high.
Because was he established when you got to the Saints?
Yes.
Yeah,
he was.
Okay.
And we're great mates to this day. But he just did things, man. He did things that reminded me a lot of some of the boys that I played with back here in Darwin, but at another level, like the next level. Tony Lockett, man, for such a big bloke, his first 20 metres were quick. And just as Gary Ablett Senior, like I told you before, with his field kicking, same.
Right.
Same, penetrating, very low, hits a target. I thought he was an exceptional player. And I got to play with someone who I idolised once I started seeing the North Melbourne Football Club play, and was lucky enough to play with him at St Kilda, was Jimmy Cracker.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, man.
Yep.
Wow. He was hard, pound for pound. I always say pound for pound, him and Gus Wanganeen, the two toughest players I've ever played with.
Yep.
And I still say that today, like they were ridiculously tough, right? They put their head where people wouldn't put their feet.
Yep.
And that's how he played. Skill set, ridiculous. Read the game beautifully. There's a lot more, but I think if I'm going to be honest, that's probably top of the range, along with obviously Gary Ablett Senior.
Yeah. So you're a young bloke, Joel. Are you happy with how he's tracking over at the Gold Coast?
I think, and touch wood, he's had an injury-free season. Previous to, he's got injured in around round 13 or 14 every year,
right? And
hasn't been able to finish off the year. Although last year they got him right towards the end of the year, and he played in the VFL finals, and they obviously won a grand final in the VFL.
Yep.
I'm really, really, really pleased with him. I think he's starting to. Sometimes it takes a bit longer with some blokes, but he's starting to realise the importance of the extra work that has to be done.
Okay.
So you get that consistent four-quarter effort.
Yep.
I was a bit disappointed that they moved him into the back half.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was.
Even coming from a defender like yourself.
Yeah. And the reason being is I think he's got really good forward craft, and it's different to most.
Right.
And so when they sort of put him back there, I was like, oh man, is it because he's a Jeffrey or what? That's sort of my thinking. And in the end, he's what he's been able to do off halfback flank down. It took a while. They made him work, before he got back into the senior side this year, and Dimmer was up front with him and said, "These are the things I need you doing, mate. You do this, and you get in. You're not going to get out." You know, and one of them was using his speed, breaking the lines,
Take the game on a bit.
take the game on,
Yep.
and use his foot skills because he's got really, really good, I think, elite foot skills.
Yep.
And it's funny because now he's getting more footy than he's ever got before.
Yep.
So we're seeing more of his ability around the ground. And I think he's only going to get better. Whether they leave him down there or not doesn't worry me anymore.
Okay.
I'm quite comfortable with it now. I think, oh, well, I know he can play forward. And now he's really developing into quite a handy halfback flanker as well.
Do you think he could be a bit of a swing man? You know, like if they need just someone to pinch hit in the forward line, or you know, some guys like the ball getting kicked at them. You know, they can. It just takes a bit of the pressure off. You know, you don't have to go and find the footy as much. You know, and I'm sure being a bloody key position, you know, sort of flanker type, he's rangy. You know, like he can sort of do it all essentially. It's a bit harder to sort of sometimes find the footy. So you sort of see him longer term, sort of nailing down that back line position. Is that whether you like it or not?
Yeah. Look, it's funny because Dimmer rang me up before they went back for pre-season this year.
Yeah.
Oh no, last year, sorry. And he was itching. He said, "Look, can we get him here early? I really want to get him here early. You know, I want to get my hands on him, and I see him on a half-back flank, and you know that's where I see him." And I was a bit cheeky, I suppose. I said, "Yeah, no, that's good." I also am a bit disappointed in that. This is me talking to Dimmer, mind you. You know, because I think he's got some really good forward craft. And Dimmer said, "Hey, I use swingman, mate. And you know, if there comes a time where I think I can swing him forward, and we know that he's more than capable, I'll do that." So I think that's the thought process with them. But right now, they like what they're seeing off a halfback flank.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, he's getting, and this comes with backline craft. He's getting a lot more aggressive.
Okay.
Where he probably wasn't as aggressive.
Yep.
Whilst he was playing up forward. So he's building that into his game now. It's not overly aggressive, but you can just see little things happening.
And he's probably growing into his body and stuff like that. You know, like a few more seasons in the gym, get a bit more physical.
Yeah.
That sort of tends to take care of itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. But no, look, really happy with his year. You know, I think even last week he nearly won on the game. Like he did things that got them within 8 points of winning that game.
Yep.
And it was his run, his carry, his delivery that he was doing, and it was quite late in the game. And then they took him off because he's in a rotation.
Yeah. That's modern footy, isn't it?
Yeah, and then that just gets wiped, and you go, man, he's hot.
Yep.
Leave him on, you know, type of thing. But that's modern footy. That's what happens. And look, his kicking efficiency is rated, I think, 9th out of 10th in the league.
Wow.
So you know that's a pretty cool stat.
Yep.
To be owning that in that top 10 in the AFL.
Yeah.
And he sits at around 84-85% efficiency, which is obviously elite.
Very good. Yeah.
But I think with him now, he's maturing now. He's definitely comfortable
At the level.
At that level.
Yep.
And at Gold Coast. He loves the Gold Coast. Has a lot of time and respect for obviously Dimmer and all the other coaches that are around there. He's got really good support from, you know, the likes of Jai Farah and Lloydie Johnson and Ben Long and Sandy Brock and all these Darwin boys.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
That are down there. Yeah, so they're it's awesome that they get to experience that together. Being from Darwin and obviously the 2 games up here, they all look forward to that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. How does he enjoy coming back to the home crowd and playing? Yeah.
He loves it.
We played well up here, didn't he?
Yeah. In fact, he's played 6 games up here, I think, and he's played well in every one of them.
Yeah.
Whether it's a forward or a back, he does. He loves it. He knows his family and friends are here. It's home. It's where you want to. we want to play well every week, but there's a little bit more incentive when there's more eyes on you that that you know and you're aware of, because it's not just watching the TV; they're actually there live.
Yeah. And the Gold Coast obviously believe in him because they've given him, that really good, contract to 2028, I think. Like that
came from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they'd contacted his manager to say, hey,
Yeah.
let's have a look at an extension here. And I believe, I know, talking to Dimmer, that Dimmer drove that.
Mm-hmm.
So if Dimmer's got belief in you, mate,
Yeah.
You're pretty right. And he does seem to get the best out of individuals, which means gets the best out of teams.
Yep.
And I think they're building something quite nice down there. I mean, it'd be nice if they played finals this year. They've lost a couple of real close ones away that they could have and should have.
What do they have to do? Do they have to win? They've been winning all their home games, haven't they? Like it's turned into a fortress.
Yeah, they obviously lost the first one on the weekend to Brisbane.
Yeah, that's
who
right.
have been on fire.
Yes,
but I'm taking that as a blessing, because now perhaps because they've lost that home game, they'll pick one up away from home.
Yep.
Look, they've got to win the next 4.
Okay.
But even then, that could get them to 13. But I don't know if 13 is going to get you into the finals. I think maybe 13.5, 14 this year, which is pretty unusual. But such is the closeness of the competition.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
I think it's that type of year. You see with Sydney, sort of flagging a little bit. The Hawks and the Lions have got on these crazy runs. I think if you're hitting your form patch going into finals, I think it might be anyone's. Like if you just hit that little patch of purple patch, who knows what could happen.
That's why I'm really taking notice of Western Bulldogs at the moment. Really taking notice.
I think Bontempelli's the best player in the comp too.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. And because he influences games when it needs to be influenced.
Yep.
Anybody can get 40 kicks or 40 touches, but this bloke influences games at the right time.
Quality touches.
Yeah. Always quality.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
Yeah. It's going to be a good year. And now that the Tigers are out of it, I've been able to just probably enjoy the footy a bit more instead of, being so vested in my team. But yeah, I don't know. I can't actually pick a winner for this year. I'd like to see Carlton do well, because I think the AFL is good when Carlton are up and going, and haven't been going too well for the last decades really. Yeah. 95 was their last flag.
95, yeah.
But yeah, I think if you're just that 5% extra, I think anyone on their day can do it. But anyway, outside of footy, I think you mentioned something earlier about the passing of your brother, and I think it was Charlie King. I've been messaging Charlie King to get the inside scoop on you, Russell, and he reckons that you're passionate about safe driving and that sort of thing. Is that something that's close to your heart outside of footy?
100%. The accident my brother had he been wearing a seatbelt, he would have been alive. He would have survived. But he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and back then it wasn't a big thing.
You said it was the 70s? Is that right?
Yeah, 79.
Okay.
It wasn't a big thing, It wasn't highlighted like it is now. And I think about that a hell of a lot. That that one thing that he could have done.
Yeah.
Would have saved us a hell of a lot of heartache as well, and certainly his wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think, and I speak about it to a lot of people. In particular seatbelts.
Yep.
You're not going to go to the show and jump on a ride without putting a seatbelt on or one of those harnesses or something to feel safe. And I think if everyone uses that mindset when they jump in a vehicle, then I think the roads are going to be a lot safer than what they are at the moment.
Because the AFL&T does have, I don't know if it's a belt up or they've got some sort of initiatives, don't they, with the belt things. Yeah. Do you get behind those?
I often do.
Yep.
More probably ABC than anyone, but they'll interview during that week.
Yep.
And I've done that a couple of times. So yeah.
And Charlie also mentioned you've just found out something about your heritage. Where your indigeneity lies. Can you tell us about that story, how that came about? Is that something you're able to share with us?
Yeah, look, I'm more than happy. It was my Aboriginality comes from my mother's side.
Yep.
And for a long, long time, we didn't know. We didn't know who our tribe was.
Right.
Mum didn't know. Mum was never told. And it was my sister and a cousin-in-law who started digging around a bit at the start. All right, let's find out. Look, where are we from? Well, what's going on here? It took 32 years.
Wow.
A lot of information we got was out of the London Museum and also over in the US as well, where a lot of anthropological reports were done in the territory, but then taken back to those places. And we were able to build a story which is really solid now.
Mm-hmm.
It's solid. And our mob are Woolwonga, Woolwallam, around that Grove Hill area, McKinley River, Mary River, Topper region.
Yeah.
And it was hard because what happened back in the day, and this was 1820, I think it was, or around the 1820s, there was a lot of Chinese mines that were around that Grove Hill area.
Okay.
If you go there now, they're there. Yeah,
right.
you can see that they're there, and that's where our mob obviously lived. Sometimes I'd do some work for them for, tea or whatever.
Yep.
But there was 2 Chinese that were killed some way. I can't remember the exact story. I've got it at home, but word got back to Darwin that, these 2 Chinese were murdered. It was a Woolwonga mob, because we were in the area at the time. And it was the first time that they ever had repeater rifles in the territory.
Okay.
And so the coppers then sort of mounted their horses and didn't use their uniforms. They didn't take their uniforms. They were out to not ask questions, but to do some damage.
Yep.
And they came across there's a whole mob of us that were in this billabong hunting, and they were all warriors. And they just opened fire on them and massacred them. So what happened then, my great-great-grandmother and everybody else bolted, just took off, thinking they're coming to kill us all.
Mm-hmm.
And she found herself at Victoria River Station, which you think is a long way away, but it's actually not when you traverse the country straight.
Yep. As a crow flies, so to speak. Yep.
Yeah. And so she was there, and the station owner at the time was a bloke by the name of Lindsay Crawford, very first station owner of Victoria River.
Okay.
Non-Aboriginal bloke. He took in 2 Aboriginal wives. One of them was my great-great-grandmother.
Right.
And had a baby. And it's the first time we'd had mixed blood come into the family. And my great-grandmother was born. So yeah, we've got all this story now. We've got it all together.
Yeah.
We're very comfortable in that. Now we know.
Sure.
Obviously, our language is gone, unfortunately. But we know where we're from. So whenever they have Sir Doug Nichols round, they ask all the players where you're from and who's your mob.
Yep.
I'd have been horrified if I'd got asked that back in the day. In fact, I probably would have lied and said, Larrakia.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to
Fit in and not be left out. Yeah.
So for my kids now, they know.
Yep.
They're Cookatch on their mother's side as well, which is Queensland.
Yeah.
But they're well aware of their heritage now, Aboriginal heritage, which is something we didn't have. So we're really proud of that. But unfortunately, with my mum and all her siblings, that all passed away before we found this out. So that's the real sad part about it.
So they wouldn't have even known.
No.
Oh, it's good you managed to close the loop on that one though. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we feel I don't know, we just feel a lot better for it.
Yep.
Because it took a long time, mate, a bloody long time.
Yep.
And look, we're not gonna. I mean, we've been recognised, but not officially in terms of having native title over the area, and that won't happen. unfortunately, because of the way the Native Title Act is. You know, you've got to be able to go your father's side or your grandfather's side.
Right.
We can only go to our great-great-grandmother. We don't know apart from that. And if it wasn't written by anthropologists, we wouldn't have known nothing.
Why is it structured in that way? Is that because it's is it an Aboriginal family structure thing?
Yeah, look,
to claim native title that way through your father's.
It's just the act.
Okay.
And it's the same as the Land Rights Act is exactly the same. You've got to be able to identify through your father's side or grandfather's side or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say that you can't claim to be who you are through your mother's side, but
it's that recognition on
That's the
the
recognition.
legislative side of things.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for sharing that. That's
No worries, mate.
that's
No.
fascinating. Outside of footy as well, what are you sort of doing these days to keep busy?
Oh, look, I've got 8 grandkids now. That keeps me busy most times. Not all of them are here in Darwin, but most of them are.
Where are they sort of spread out these days?
Sydney, got an older son in Sydney. My daughter Letitia and Joel both live on the Gold Coast, but everybody else is here. So that keeps me busy. Obviously, my work, I really enjoy doing what I do. I work a lot with the traditional owners down at in and around Elliott and Mullinger on the Beetaloo Basin project. They're great people, mate. Great people. Really enjoy working with them. So that definitely keeps me busy. And and obviously I try to leave a couple of hours a week to watch my boy play.
Yeah. Do you manage to do that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that how our weekend revolves around what time he's playing, mate.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Shop shut.
Yeah. So is Beetaloo, is there going to be some benefits delivered for the local people? Is that sort of your role to sort of make sure that some benefits do come back?
Yeah, 100%. You know, employment training is what I sort of work in that area, as well as business opportunities for Aboriginal businesses.
Yeah.
Look, it's still in exploration. There's still a lot of work to be done. Had a really good result last year, and expect next year or this year to roll even better results through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're in a really good position where we've got such a good working relationship with the traditional owner groups, and there's several of them. We're in constant contact. They know the project better than most.
Yep.
And they are the determined native title holders too, so they've gone through all the process of Supreme Court and all that to be awarded that. So we know we're talking to the right people. But they what they want is pretty simple. They want to bring their people out of poverty, and not just their clan groups, but the communities that they live in. They're very, very focused on helping to support the community, which we are as well. We obviously do that where we can, and I think as we move forward and we go into final investment decision, which is where we want to be in probably 2 or 3 years' time. Not only will it help the traditional owners, but it's definitely going to help Territorians as a whole.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, I'd love to see that area develop, because my mother was actually born in Tennant Creek, and I've spent most of the 90s living there, playing footy against Elliott and that sort of thing. So I'd like to see some real benefit delivered in that region. That's fantastic. So, well, thank you. That's covered all the bases that I wanted to talk to you about, and I was honestly captivated the whole way through. You got an amazing story, and you tell the story really well. So appreciate your time.
I know it well, so
yeah. Well, it's your story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but what we like to do is just give our guests a little bit of an opportunity at the end of each podcast if they just want to spruik anything, promote anything. The floor is yours, Russell.
Oh, plenty to promote, but I think the one that's getting some attention now and will into the future is this 20th team in the AFL competition from the Northern Territory. There's a lot of reasons I believe in it. I know it's going to be hard, but the thing for me that really highlights why, it's not a national competition until we have a team up here.
Yep.
It's just not. And you're kidding yourself to say that, we play 3 games in the Territory, so it is. Well, no, it's not. It's not. We've got the 19th coming in a couple of years in Tasmania. that loop now needs to be closed, and we need a site up here.
Yep.
The cost is astronomical. We know that year to year how that works. So resource industries, mining industries out there that are listening to this, really start thinking long term about where you're going to put your sponsorship dollars, because I think this could be an absolute game changer.
Yep.
For the territory.
Yep.
Not just Darwin, for the territory. So I'm hoping with the committee that they've got on, the steering committee that's working behind the scenes to get this up and going, and the support they're getting from blokes like Andrew McLeod, Nathan Buckley, Demetrio, these kind of people. And I know the passion that Sean Bowden's got for it and his team. I would just love to see that happening. Look, I don't know how. It might take 6-7 years. I don't care. But yeah, let's close that loop and let's have our real national competition and give us Territorians a go, because when you do, wonderful things happen.
I agree. It'd be great to actually get Sean Bowden on the podcast. I don't know if you can pull any strings there, Russell, but it'd be really good to hear him sort of talk in detail about, you know, what are some of the hurdles that the territory faces to get the 20th team here. But yeah, I think I agree. It's it should be inevitable that we'll get a team eventually. We just got to make it work, because you look at the Thunder, unfortunately, finishing up, and we just don't want that to happen. You know, if we want it to happen, we've got to give it the best chance it can of you know, succeeding and then making a difference for locals. So
100%, mate, 100%, and it would be pretty cool to go to a new stadium and watch our footy team run around in the major competition, wouldn't it? Be bloody awesome.
We've got plenty of talent, so we need to give them a home deck to run around on.
We're not short on talent.
Yeah. Well, Russell, I really appreciate your time, mate. It was fantastic. Really, it was awesome to listen to, and appreciate your time, mate. And go out and enjoy your last long weekend of the year.
I'll be doing that. Thanks, Stu.
Go to the Gold Coast.
Yes,
thanks,
go to
mate.
the Gold Coast. Thanks.
Cheers.
Mate.
Thanks, everyone.